Share it to the book. What's going on? I am here to tap in episode 125. Man, you know, I remember when I hit 50, and that was a milestone. Then I remember when I hit 100, and that was a milestone. Hitting 100 was 25 episodes ago. Literally, and I do 5 episodes a week. So literally hitting episode 100 was 5 weeks ago. Isn't that amazing? They say the nature of reality is that the only moment that really exists is right now, because anything that happened before you, before this moment, you remember it. It only exists because you remember it, but it's not something that is actively happening. Well, in quantum physics, they say all past, present, and futures happen simultaneously, but it's hard for people to really digest that. I kind of do believe that too. Like everything is happening simultaneously. I believe that, but for the sake of individuals that don't really understand that concept, the past only exists because we remember it, and the future exists because we ponder on it. The only thing that really happens is right now, and all we can do now in this moment is make different decisions for the future to be different. But the crazy thing is, you can make different decisions right now for the past to be different too. See, a lot of people don't talk about that. What up, Apti? I can't read it. I can't read it. We're just gonna call you AP. What's good, AP? Y'all be having Hebrew letters as your name, but type in English. But yeah, people don't want to talk about that when it comes to time travel. And I've touched on this on another episode before, but I'll briefly touch on it again. You may not be able to physically travel back in time in this form, but you know how you can travel back in time? Right here. Because the past only exists in terms of memories, right? So the only way you can essentially change your past is change your memory or change how you perceive it. And if how you perceive the past now, like you ponder on it and you change how you perceive it, you change how you feel about it today. And if you changed how you perceive the past, you're changing the past, which in turn is changing the present. Does that make sense? Like, you can look at a situation where you were victimized when you were young. And that victimization, a lot of times people are victimized as youths, and that opens the gateway for them. They feel powerless. Somebody took advantage of them. And so they develop this thing where they want to feel like they're in a position of power. So they'll take advantage of somebody else, unfortunately. It's like a vampire, it just keeps spreading, it keeps spreading. Because you looked at the past as, well, this defines me, and because so and so I was victimized in a certain way, I have to victimize other people. Or you can look at your past and be like, you know what? I was definitely victimized. But me going through that experience, I know all the signs of an individual that may potentially try to do that to somebody else, and I can serve as the protector. So I had to, I wouldn't say I had to go through that experience, but I used that victimized experience that I went through in the past, and instead of me looking at myself, I was a victim, but instead of me just championing that or thinking that was my only identity, I used that as preparation to be a president. God forbid, a victimizer. Maybe you take yourself out early because of it. But it's all about willfully. The mind is the only time machine that we really have is our mind right now. But it's literally just going back. But it's literally just going back, looking at the situation in your mind, and then reframing and changing your perspective of that situation, which will currently empower you in the present and literally change your present circumstances. And by changing your present, you change the potential future. You know? So that's time travel. But I already spoke about that already, and that's in the book. I started writing the book, man. I started putting it together. We are going into, like I said, it's 15 chapters and a bonus chapter. And I have a foreword, a prologue, an epilogue. I have a table of contents, but I call it the table of clairvoyance. That's what I call it. So I'm building the table of contents or the table of clairvoyance as I'm building the book itself, and I'm building the source code. The source code is just another way of me saying the index of the book. And essentially the index of the book is everything that I took from my pages, everything that is written in my pages, it comes directly from my podcast. Some of you would probably like to know exactly where I got my ideas from in my podcast. So boom, you go through the book, you know, and you don't have to read it in a specific order, or you can go directly to the source code. Every topic in my book will be alphabetized. Like it'll say the cathedral concept, or it'll say the doom scrolling, something like that. And then by those words, I'll have the chapter that it's in, the chapter and the page that you can read it from, or I'll have where it's sourced from my Eyes Below So Above video. So it would have the exact video, and then it would have the exact minute mark, so you can see exactly where I spoke about it. So if people think I'm plagiarizing or just making some stuff up or using AI or whatever, no. All these words of mine, these words come directly from my podcast. I just synthesize it into a book, and you can source. I'm gonna set up my book a certain way so it's sourced up perfectly like that. So you got the table of clairvoyance or the table of contents. You can pick which section you want to read through, right? Or you can just go directly to the index because it'll be in more detail as far as like specific topics that I talk about. The index will either A, which I call the source code, will either A, guide you to the book so you can read it out where I wrote it, or guide you to the podcast to see exactly what I spoke about it before I even put it into words. And then on top of that, my entire book, I would say 90% of the book is sourced from my podcast, the Tapping Podcast. But sometimes, you know, I'll just be driving and I think it's something cool, like a cool concept or whatever, and I'll talk about it, I'll audio record it. You understand what I'm saying? And then I see if it can match with anything within my book. And sometimes it may be like an annotation, like something I can add to an actual chapter. So that's going to be called the hidden annotations, meaning the ideas from the hidden annotations, they're not from the podcast. They're from my daily musings. You know what I'm saying? But my hidden annotations, it'll have the date that I came up with the idea. And the hidden annotation, you look up the hidden annotations. First of all, you'll have an index of all the hidden annotations. Like I have them alphabetized, topics, whatever. And it's not that many. I think it's like 12 or 13, something like that. So you have the abbreviation of the hidden, the source code to the hidden annotations. And then when you go to the actual hidden annotations, you'll see them fully written out, but the hidden annotations will redirect you back to the chapter that these hidden annotations were nestled in. So you got mad ways to read this book. You don't have to read it straight through. You can look through the clairvoyance, the table of clairvoyance. You're like, oh, I want to read this chapter. Boom. Or you can go to the back to the index. You can just go directly to it, the source code, and you can say, oh, these topics are dope. You know what I'm saying? And you can have a choice. Either A, I look at the topic and I read it, or B, I look at the topic and I go to the video. You can go either way. That's how I'm making this. I'm designing this book, so it doesn't necessarily have to be read straight through. And the way I'm doing my chapters, all my chapters, they're about 15 to 20 pages each. But you know how most books, a number is like 1 through whatever. So if it's a 500-page book, it's 1 through 500. I know for a fact, a lot of times when people look at books, especially heavier books, 250, 300 pages or better, they look at it like a huge mountain, and they get discouraged. Like, damn, I don't want to read all this. So each of my chapters is always going to start back over number 1. So chapter 1, it'll be like 1 through 15. I think chapter 2, it'll start back over 1 through 18. Chapter 3, it's like 1 through 20. That's how I was going to do. But the way I'm going to do it is, the way I'm going to number the pages is, so chapter 1, page 1 will be 1 of 1. Page 2 will be 1 of 2. Page 3 will be 1 of 3, and so forth. Chapter 2, page 1 will be 2 of 1. Page 2 will be 2 of 2. Page 3 will be 2 of 3. Chapter 3, page 1 will be 3 of 1. Page 2 will be 3 of 2. Because the 3 is the chapter and the 1 is the actual page. So you get what I'm saying? So that way, it's basically like an anthology within an anthology. That's what I'm doing. Because I'm actually working on the second book right now simultaneously, believe it or not. And I got a horror book that I'm working on. But that's in the back burner. Now y'all probably thinking, damn, Mo, is this dude funny? Do he still do comedy? I absolutely do still do comedy. I absolutely do stand up, man. I never give up the writing. I never give up the practice. Me doing this right now with you is my version of practicing. But summertime, I ain't gonna lie, the gigs are extremely dry. I only got 1 gig for the rest of the year so far. I only got 1 gig August 29th. Now I could lament and I could be scared like, dang, ain't nobody booking me, blah, 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 blah. But as I always say at the end of the podcast, the comedy guys will not give you anything new to scribe. It is their way of telling you to work out the things that they already gave you. And I'm not just talking about me creating comedy. That's my dry spell concept too. When I was saying, when I was single, or I would just go through these extreme dry spells, and I would just be so perturbed that I wasn't getting no ladies and nothing like that. But basically, me not having the distraction of women, that was the perfect opportunity to have no excuse but to only work on myself. In music, the rests, the pauses in music, in comedy and poetry, yes, you got words, but the empty space, the silence, the pauses, the rests are just as important as the work. So right now, comedy-wise, I'm going through a rest, so to speak. But during this rest, I'm cranking out a book that's heavy right now, man, and I'm loving it. I'm loving every aspect of doing this, man. I'm loving it, and I'm able to juggle it and do this and work full time and still have a relationship and still crank it out. I'm figuring out different ways to maximize my time, man. A lot of times we get so caught up, oh, it's not enough time. We only got a limited amount of time to do stuff. Yes, we do have a limited amount of time to do certain things because we can't do everything. But we have an infinite amount of time to maximize relatively small things that can leave your mark in this existence for eternity. That's the way you got to start looking at it, man. I don't get caught up like God forbid everything ended in the next 5 minutes, whatever. There's no denying everything I created thus far. Somebody get a hold of my phone, all the stuff that I emailed to me. There's a way to crack codes and passwords. I left my mark, but I would like to finish this anthology in the physical form. I would like to do that. So I'm going to be as cautious and as careful that I can within this existence, because I really, really feel like this message needs to be finished, or at least the first book finished by myself in this existence, in this form. And if not this form, it'll be finished in another form. But I'm enjoying this movie, this experience right now. So I would like to finish watching this movie before this TV turns off, so to speak, metaphorically. Because I like where this is going, and I would like to see, I would really, really enjoy to see how, I feel like, honestly, what I'm putting together is going to change the world. That's That's honestly how I feel. I honestly feel, I honestly, wholeheartedly feel that. I feel like what I'm creating, it's not even that I'm creating, the way the universe is talking to me, the gods, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in anything specific that most people believe in. You know, I believe in a higher power, higher source connection, whatever. I talk about this, whatever. I'm not preaching. But whatever that is, I feel like I'm plugged into something, and I feel like it's working through me, and I'm putting this together at a pretty good pace. I would say I'm putting it together at a rapid pace. Like somebody, damn, you wrote the book fast. But I'm gonna tell you like this: these philosophies and ideas I've been having in my head, you know, pretty much since I was 5 years old. I was pondering death, but I really started getting into philosophy in 2011 when I came across Alan Watts. So you'll hear a lot of Alan Watts influence in my writings. You'll hear a lot of Carl Jung in my writings. You'll hear a lot of Neville Goddard in my writings. You'll hear a lot of, even though he's controversial, all these guys are controversial. You'll hear a lot of Shaman Derek in my writings. You'll hear a little bit of Bruce Lee in my writings. But I really started doing the podcast earlier this year. I want to say around February. And I didn't even realize I was writing a book until I want to say episode 26, 27. Before that, it was mainly just me doing stand-up. I would have philosophical musings here and there, but I was mainly just focused on stand-up. But this just transformed. It just evolved into something way more. Like I said, stand-up was the foundation, and really poetry is the foundation. If we really want to be technical, poetry is the foundation. And even beyond that, hip-hop is the foundation. Hip-hop is really the foundation. You understand? Of everything I do. And then beyond hip-hop is R&B, but you know what I'm saying? Whatever. That's neither. That's a shout-out to my boy Dewan Brown, who never watches me, but whatever. But really, comedy is the foundation for this journey right here. And the book is being put together, so people may perceive, like when you see the iceberg, you see the tip of the iceberg or whatever, you think that's what it is, but you don't see that huge glacier underneath, all the work that it took. I'm on episode 125 of the Tap In. I had to sift through videos and decide, okay, this is going to be chapter 1, this is going to be chapter 2, this is going to be chapter 3. This episode, I'm not talking about nothing. I'm not talking about nothing on this episode. This is episode 4. And even if I don't listen to the whole thing all the way through, I'm still putting it through something to spit back to me to let me know all my points and stuff, and should it be used for the next chapter. I'm synthesized. I'm using everything, all the technology at my fingertips to put this together, and it's coming together extremely dope. Now that I got the ground, like the foundation is just building. We're on chapter 3 right now, man. We're on chapter 4. I'm so excited. After I do the things that I want to do, once I get home, I'm going to cut the grass and stuff like that, eat dinner and all that. I'm excited, man. Listen, man. After tonight, we might be at chapter 10. But I'm trying to be patient, though. There's no need to rush. I build the chapters. I have it read it back to me and all that. And this is another thing that I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. Matter of fact, I know exactly how I'm going to do it. After each chapter, oh, you better believe. I'm wondering how I should do this. Should I finish the book first and then start reading it out and recording it in audio for the audio book? Or should I record the audio book as I go? And it's like, I'm not 100% sure about that. And the only reason why is because once the book is put together, I want to do one final read or two, like two or three more reads. And if something has to get edited, I don't want to put the book out and then I'm doing the audio and I find myself editing the audio. So I want the book to match the audio as much as possible, if that makes sense. And I think, you know what? I'm going to finish the book first and I'll do the audio after it's edited, because I'm going to be reliving my anthology inside the anthology again. And then I'm going to be so versed in everything that I wrote because I've read it so many times that when it comes to the interviews and the inspiration and all that, when I'm talking to people, I can quote it like the Bible. Oh, that's chapter 4, page 2. You know what I'm saying? It's sourced from the Tap In episode 46, minute number. Like it's gonna get that deep. It's going it's gonna get that serious, man. Like it really is. And the wild thing too, as I'm doing this, like I'm doing more conscious, cognizant breathing, and just trying not to be so jumpy and stressed out. It seems like time is slowing down for me. It seems like I have more time. And time is always moving at the same speed, but I think a lot of times we expend a lot of time planning, thinking, and worrying as opposed to executing. When you're driven about something and you're passionate, it doesn't really take long to do a lot of things. Once you get to do it, yes, things take an amount of time, but if you got a necessary plan and you got your mental team putting it together, like I didn't know 7 months ago you could have told me that I would have 125 episodes in a podcast. That's only about 30 minutes each, but I consistently do this Monday through Friday. 125 episodes, approximately 30 minutes each. You know what that translates to? That's over 60 hours of content, man. 60 hours of content. And what? February, March, April, May, June, July, August. 60 hours in 10 months. 6 months, rather. That's not bad for somebody with a full-time job that does the majority of the majority of my creativity is done while I'm on the road commuting to and fro work. The majority of my work is done just like this. They say Winston Churchill never wrote. Winston Churchill used to just record in a dictaphone or whatever it's called. You don't have to only sit down and write in a soundproof room until your hands ache. Different ways to put this stuff out. I record it just like this. I record it like this. I get the transcripts. I put the pages together. Bam. And if some of y'all can take inspiration for what I'm saying right now, if you're thinking about writing a book and putting something together, get to talking. Think about your topic. Just freestyle. Talk. Put it to AI. You understand what I'm saying? Tell her to tell you the major bullet points, and then you can write based off those points. Simple, man. James Patterson is some of the most prolific writers that we know today. They don't they be putting out 5, 6, 8, 10 books a year. You think they writing that by themselves? Hell no. They got ghostwriters helping them out. Okay, this is the framework. This is the idea. This is how I want to sound. The ghostwriter goes and writes based on that framework. And then James Patterson goes through and he reads it. And if he likes it, hey, this made the cut. And if he got to make some changes or alterations, he makes the changes. But he was the soul. He put the soul of it together. Same concept, man. And once the book is done, and once you look at my table of clairvoyance, once you look at the source code, once you look at the hidden annotations, you will see exactly every single moment that I was inspired to write every single line that's in my book. I can't wait. It's just happening right now, man. It was crazy. I was like, because what I do is once I get my chapters together, I'll have it read it back to me. And I would say at least three or four hours today, because I'm listening to it. You know what I'm saying? While going between stops and stuff like that, I was listening to my own philosophical musings from my book, and then surprising myself, like, damn, that's dope, that's good. I was listening to my own musings more than I was listening to YouTube. And I love my brother Sanchez, stuff like that, even though I listen to a lot of him. I love that stuff. But it's one thing to be a consumer of content, but being a creator and then appreciating your creation, that's a whole nother ball game, bro. And like I said, when I write this stuff, yes, the ideas come from me, as a vessel, but it be feeling like it's coming from something else. It's just using me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm literally an ink pen, and like the spirit, the wind, whatever that's making me. Because I mean, the air is like the ink. To be honest with you, and like the way this is flowing out of me, you know what I'm saying? The air is the ink. Me as the human being, I am the pen, and then reality itself, whether walking around, talking to people, this is my canvas. This is my canvas, and how I act and how I move about, that determines if I'm keeping this canvas making a pretty picture or if I'm making a dirty picture. And I'm thinking I'm making, like, what I mean, as far as how I'm living and how I'm moving right now, I think the picture's looking pretty clear, man. I think the picture's looking dope right now, yo. However, this spirit, this air is using me right now, the way I'm speaking and spitting, the stuff that I'm thinking about, how I'm moving. Yeah, I think the art is looking nice, bro. And you're going to continue to just see more and more art, because book 1 is being worked on, but book 2, being book 2, the phase 2, as below so above. I think I already got 2 chapters out of that already, but that one's going to be a little different because some of it is going to be sourced from my some of chapter book 2, phase 2 of As Below So Above anthology. I do essays too. I write essays as well. I have these great philosophical ideas that I don't necessarily want to put in a book yet. You know what I'm saying? So I either do a daily log of just a quick idea, or I make an essay out of it. So and I date and I number all the essays. So when it comes to that next book, instead of me having to sift through a lot of videos, if I can't find anything for the next book in the videos, I'm going to pull it straight from the essay. Past, present, future, creating, simultaneously happening, man, in my artistry, I'm serious about this, man. I'm excited about it. I found my calling as a stand-up. Don't get it twisted. But it's like me being a stand-up, and really it started with poetry, but really like stand-up, me being a stand-up, the cool thing about being a stand-up is that I don't have to be serious about every single aspect. I can flirt with different parts and portions and aspects of my creativity, And yeah, I'm gonna be dope on that stage. I'm gonna be funny. Yo, trust me, I'm not gonna neglect the art, but I'm able to still just be deep and get real philosophical. Even though I get a little deep and philosophical with my jokes now, I wouldn't say I'm like a George Carlin or Bill Hicks or anything like that. But little speckles, little elements, but a lot of me though. It could be little sparkles and speckles. I mean, we're all connected to the same source. Like we all derive inspiration from similar things. Like we all desire to eat. We all have a natural inclination to eat, drink water, sleep, use the bathroom, mate, seek companionship. Like we all got the same basic needs. We all got the same basic wants and desires. Now, the degree and the amount of each of these things we want, it all varies depending on the humans. And you can tell because some of them big people, they desire, like myself, we desire food and satiation with our palate way more than somebody that's built like a twig. You understand what I'm saying? But just because I may crave or desire more sustenance than that slimmer person, we still have one thing in common. We both desire sustenance. So I say that to say this. You're going to come across instances and situations where you're creating where you may have similarities to other people, but they say there's only 6 degrees of separation, something like that. And I think that there's only like 7 different personality types. So you're bound to cross paths and have the same ideas as other people. If I'm not mistaken, like the airplane and flight was discovered basically on two sides of the world, damn near simultaneously. The pyramids that were built in Egypt were built almost simultaneously as the pyramids that was built in like Peru, even though they had different styles of building, but they were built like they're going there the same time, alluding to the fact that we all come from the same source, man. We're just in different environments. We have different upbringing and background and stuff like that. So there may be slight augmentations with the things that we want or how much we want, but we all want the basic same things. We just have different sliders. Think of it as a video game. You creating a player, and different players, like you got to like strength, speed, agility, intelligence. You know, however you arrange those sliders will determine how your character performs. You know, so it's like the reverse of that, if that makes sense. All of us have different sliders as far as our wants and needs. So all of us will look at the world and approach things like in slightly different ways, but ultimately it's the same basic thing, man. Whether you're Jay-Z on a bum on the street, both of them want to eat some food, you know, have a companion, feel safe. Just one does it on $1 billion level, one does it on a bum level. But it's the same thing, just different levels. Hey man, but I'm rocked and talked long enough. These are my Monday. This was my Monday mindful musing. And as I tell all my young and up and coming comedians, there is no such thing as writer's block. If the comedy gods have not given you anything new to scribe on that page, it is the way of telling you to work out the things that they already gave you. Stay away from gossip. Stay away from rumors. Stay away from nonsense. Stay away from negativity. Stay away from the foolishness. Focus on the funny and lead with love, because life is not something that happens in spite of you. Life is an experience for you to behold. So get to beholding. Always see Monday not as something to be depressed about. See it as a new beginning to make this week better than the last. I holla at y'all. Y'all enjoy your evening, your morning, your existence, wherever you are on this spherical projection. Peace.